Okay, good morning. Welcome everybody to this meeting of the local review body of the 12th of June 2013. I can confirm that the meeting has been properly called and is quorate. Can I first ask members to appoint a chairman to this
meeting? Nominate Councillor Nicholl.
I'll second that.
Okay, Councillor Nicholl, are you happy to accept the nomination?
That was obviously no. Yes, I'll do it. I'm delighted to have the support of my colleagues.
Thank you.
Welcome everyone to this meeting. No members of the public here, just our good selves. Have we any apologies?
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies from Ivor Hislop today.
Okay, could you take us through the documents and papers?
Sorry, Chair, can I just do a quick intimation as well, just for the record. If you look at page 31 of your agenda, you will note that there are 4 planning applications given in paragraph 1.2 as the planning history. Just for the record, the last 3 applications, the 97 and the 2 ones from 2001, I was the case officer for those in another life, so I do know the building, but was last involved in it some 12 to 15 years ago. So I was not the case officer for this application or the appointed officer or involved in any way, shape or form in it.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Right. Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that there is 1 notice of review for consideration at this meeting, that being item 4 on the agenda, 25 to 27 High Street, Langholm. Refusal of planning permission for change of use and alterations to ground floor betting office for a flat, incorporating part of existing flat, extension to existing upper flat, raising of wallhead and ridge height and formation of 2 dormer windows to rear, and erection of domestic garage, 12P40337. The key documents in your papers are the notice of review, related documents, report on handling, observations of interested parties and appointed officer, the planning application form dated 30th of November, decision notice, and the relevant extracts from all the relevant plans and policies. We also have photos of the application site and locality. The grounds of refusal are on pages 96 and 97, in that the proposal fails to accord with structure plan policy E8 and general policies 7 and 50 of the Annandale and Eskdale local plan, in that the proposed alterations and extensions do not have regard for the character, appearance, scale of massing of the building, and would have a material adverse effect on the character and appearance of the conservation area. The requested method of determination is on page 14, in that the applicant has requested that the review be dealt with by means of an inspection of the land, which is subject to the review. Grounds stated in the notice of review are, in summary, that the 2 current attic rooms are so small and so low they are virtually unusable. A rear extension, as suggested by the conservation officer, is not a feasible solution. Raising the roof would not be overdeveloping the building. The footprint would remain the same, but it would be put to a better use. The external appearance of the building would be greatly improved. Flat dormers were proposed due to the roof being too low for pitch dormers. They would look better than the existing ones. I disagree with concerns regarding the raising of the roof ridge and wall head. don't consider that the affected gable could be seen except close up and at an angle. The current garage roof is starting to rot. New garage would increase area for vehicle turning. Monopitch roof would not block light to neighbouring property. The applicant is willing to change roof pitch and material to slate. There is local support for the proposal, including from the Community Council. We have the comments of the interested parties, being the appointed officer, pages 49 to 52. Further comments from Transport Scotland on page 55, and the development plan policies, page 32 to 33, being Dumfries and Galloway Structure Plan, E8 Developments and Conservation Areas, Annandale and Estill Local Plan, General Policies 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 50. So the main issues for the local review body to consider today are: does the proposal conform with the relevant development plan policies? Does the proposal conform with the Council's supplementary planning guidance number 2 on design guidance for the built environment and material consideration? If not, are there any material considerations which would indicate that planning permission should be granted to the contrary? And are the LRB satisfied from the information that provided that they are clear about the potential visual impact of the proposal in the street scene Langholm outstanding conservation area? So, having outlined the documents within the members' papers, it now falls to the LRB to determine whether it has sufficient information to consider the review. It's confirmed that no representations from any party will be heard today. The local review body has the following options. It can decide it has sufficient information before it to enable it to determine the review today. Request further information in the form of written representations. In doing this, LRB would have to state precisely the information required and who would provide it. Resolve to hold a hearing, again specifying who would be invited to speak and on what matters. Resolve to hold a site visit, accompanied or unaccompanied, and this can be done in conjunction with any of the above, but would not allow a decision to be made today. And if the local review body resolves it has sufficient information and that no further procedure is required, then the local review body has full powers to uphold, reverse, or vary a determination. The decision notice will include a statement in the terms in which the planning authority has decided the case reviewed. Planning advisor is present at your meeting. He is here to assist. It's confirmed he's not any involvement in the current case, not the case officer or the appointed officer for the application. He is purely here to provide independent advice as needed on matters of planning policy, law, or process to the local review body. The members are clear, no further clarification is required. The last chairman now is to lead the debate, and in the first instance to lead the local review body through the agenda papers together and decide if it has sufficient information before it to make a determination today.
Okay, David has some slides to show, so I think we should see them to start with. Happy? Thank you.
Right, sorry, I don't have the remote control today, so I'm going to do this at the laptop. First slide, these are the same ones that you have in your agenda papers from page 115 to 119, I think it is. These are a couple of street view photos first. So the property which you're looking at is in the centre of the slide here, and the affected area is really where the cursor is just now. It will be built up, so the ridge line would extend back up. That's the front photo of it. You'll notice the one next door has already had an extension. The one next door and along that haven't. So this is the only one in that row, but it does exist. This is the access to the rear, and you'll note Transport Scotland's comments in respect of that as well. And these are the case officer's photos. You're looking more or less southeastwards down the high street. Most of the buildings here that you see in the photos are in fact listed, except for this one. which is the application site. It is, however, in the Langholm Outstanding Conservation Area. It's a closer view of the access lane down the side, and then an elevation here. So the critical element with this one actually is this area here where the ridge line would be extended up, the wallhead would be built up, so it would be coming in line with that line further up and then dropping back down. The section that would be built. This is a view from the rear. So you can see again the one that has been built up and the other ones along the terrace haven't. These are the existing dormers, and the attic area sits around here. Years ago, as I said, I was actually inside this. I found it relatively difficult to stand up in those ones, and you certainly could not stand up in the attic, which in my time there was not bedrooms as such. It was just a attic.
The proposal is to raise the roof level to the same as the one next door.
Yes, you have a look at page. This one. Yes, if you have it's page 73 of your agenda papers, you can see the top left-hand drawing there is the elevation of what it's going to look like, and you can see the ridge line that runs through next door.
I couldn't quite hear you there.
Sorry, I didn't have it switched on. We would go through the papers, or have you any further questions for David? Jim?
Just one question, Chair. Can you confirm that the protruding chimney will be removed?
This is the one on the rear, or yes, and if you look at, again, it's page 71, you can see the chimney that runs up the side, and then if you turn over the page, you'll see that chimney is gone, because basically that entire wall head would be built up. So that chimney would disappear, but then you can also see further to the left on the gable view that the existing chimney stack will then become lower than the roof ridge.
Okay, we'll go through them a section at a time, and we'll come to the plans later on. So if we go to section 1, which is on pages 5 to 28, which is the notice of review, refusal of planning permission for change of use, etc., alterations to ground floor, betting office to form flat, incorporating part of existing flat, extension to existing upper flat, raising of wall head and ridge height, and formation of 2 dormer windows to rear and erection of domestic garage at whatever, 25 to 27 High Street. Is there anything in these that you wish to comment on, gentlemen? In the photographs, I wonder what era the photographs were taken in, with the 2 people, 2 ladies standing beside the Royal Bank of Scotland.
These are ones which were submitted with the application, with the LRB by the applicant, so I'm afraid I can't shed any light on that, but cars on the high street don't appear to be horse-drawn, so that's a start.
Maybe a fancy dress parade. Sorry, Councillor Blake?
Yeah, just that photograph that you're talking about, which could be of the time, with the fact that a wheelie bin's in there.
About to divide and multiply. If there are no comments, no questions on that, we'll move on to section 2, which is report and handling, page 29 to 46. says on page 34 about required to restrict access of the ground floor flat to pedestrian only if permission had been granted. What does that mean?
This actually relates to, if you turn over a few pages to page 43, you've got the comments from Trunk Roads via Transport Scotland. Their concern was the fact that at the moment the bookmaker's shop, which is there on the ground floor, does not have any parking or areas to the rear for use. The Transport Scotland didn't want to see that access intensified in its use, so they wouldn't want it to be a parking area for both flats, the ground floor and the upper one. The upper one already has the legal rights of access to do that, but they just wanted to make that clear that it should only remain for the upper flat and not for the ground floor flat. Quite where they're supposed to park is just going to find somewhere on the street, but they didn't want to intensify the use of the access, which is as you've seen from the photos, it's quite a constrained access onto the trunk road.
I totally agree with what you're saying, but the way I read that meant that the condition that the people who live in the ground floor flat are not allowed to have a car. Maybe wrong. Councillor McComb?
Thank you, Chair. Is it particularly unusual for small flats of this nature not to have a parking space? You know, flats which are facing a fairly busy main street.
That was actually commented on, I seem to recall, in the comments from the case officer as well about the yes, amenity standards. The lack of off-street parking is not uncommon in a town centre location, and therefore a degree of flexibility is also required with regard to the usual standards. Usual standards, obviously, you do look for new build to provide flats, but these are historical buildings in town centres where it's sometimes just not possible to provide additional spaces.
The situation is by no means unusual for town centre flats.
So,
Any other comments, gentlemen, on this section? No, we'll move on to section 3, which is the observations of the interested parties on page 47 and the appointed officer and the applicant's notice of review. There's the very first on page 49. The domestic garage lies out with the application site and also curtilage of 25 to 27.
yes, that's an interesting one. If you look at page 65, what appears to have been missed by the applicant, the agent, the plans processing unit, the case officer and the appointed officer is that the line which has been drawn around the red line around the application site on page 65 doesn't actually accord with the plan that you will see on the following page, on page 67 and page 69. The reason for that is that if you look at the rear of the property, which is 25 and 27, there's a line that runs down, and where the proposed garage is going is actually to the rear of number 23. Now, we know for a fact that that's the applicant's property, that he has 23, 25 and 27, so there is no ownership issue. But it does raise an issue about the fact that whilst the appointed officers put that comment in now, they appear to have been happy to actually issue the permission with this drafting error on the location plan. I think in those circumstances you would have to honour the fact that the block plan, particularly one shown on page 69, is correct and shows the land, and on the application form the applicant has confirmed that they own all of the relevant land. That box has been ticked. So there appears to have been a drafting error on the location plan which wasn't picked up at the time it was determined. Fairly minor one, but nonetheless an error which in retrospect the appointed officer has picked up on, but it doesn't actually invalidate the decision. It just means that you've got an anomaly between two sets of drawings. Wherever you have that, the drawing at the larger scale always takes precedence. So again, I would direct you to page 69. That is really the block plan of what is proposed. So an error, but not an irretrievable one.
In section 2 of that first page, it says, it is unclear whether the attic space was ever intended to be used as habitable rooms. Now, you made reference to that, Ron, specifically that there was an attic space, or potential that it could be rooms.
Probably the best way to show that is if you look at page 71, you've actually got a section through it, and I have to get my glasses off to actually read this, it's so small. Yeah, it's 1.743 millimeters, so 1.7 meters, to the ridge height you can see on the attic. Now, somebody of my height just physically could not stand upright in that, even at the centre. So, although they're shown on the existing plan as bedrooms 3 and 4, it's very questionable whether these are actually habitable bedrooms. The ones that are further down were, I found somewhat claustrophobic myself, and they're about 2.2 meters, but certainly I don't think that was ever intended as a habitable bedroom area just because of the height involved. That, I think, is the point that the appointed officer is getting to.
For short people. Any other comments, Mr. Thompson?
Just on that, you know, while you're saying that it wasn't intended to be inhabited as such, you know what I mean? Is there anything to prevent it being used as a bedroom?
No, I mean, obviously what you've got there is the view of the appointed officer where they're raising this query, but in pure planning terms, there's no reason why it could be used as such. Whether it was ever intended for that purpose is a different matter. That's what we don't know.
Councillor McComb.
Thank you, Chair. Page 51, statement 7 by the appointed officer. The appointed officer makes the comment, while the rear half of the gable can only be seen for a short distance along the High Street, which does lessen the impact to a minor degree. I would have thought if the rear gable can only be seen for a short distance, it would lessen the impact to a considerable degree, rather than a minor degree. I mean, someone walking along the High Street, there is only a very, very short space where you will actually see the rear gable, or the rear half of the gable. And certainly someone driving along would be unlikely to notice it at all.
Yeah, I would agree. Be concentrating on the road anyway.
Of course you would.
Okay. Is there anything else in this section? No? Move on to section 4, which is the planning application, and relevant letters that came with it. The plans. David has pointed out there is this anomaly with the garage. Theoretically, should that have been subject to a separate planning application?
No, what should have happened was the red line around the application site, which you see on page 65, should have clearly included that. I think the agent has just misread the plan himself, because if you see there is the existing garage there, and I think he had, it took me a while to actually get what the issue was with that one when I was having a look at it. I think he's just misread where the boundary line should go. But it should have been part of this application. It's clearly part of the description.
I would have to say, Councillor McComb, that if you're going in the opposite direction, the gable end of the Royal Bank is much bigger. You know, you're going to see a lot more of it. It's going to be, and it will be in the conservation area.
But again, Chair, if it is only a very, very short space of the street frontage where the rear gable will be visible.
And again, just probably the point on that is that page 115, I think, gives you a reasonable view of that. The bank is actually set back from that terrace of properties, so it is, if it was all running flush, you would have absolutely no view of that gable at all. It's because this is an end one, and you will get some view of it, albeit limited. I think that's what was causing the appointed officer some concern.
Looking at the photographs on page 90 and 91, say that best be described round the back as a gorach. It's just no tidy. Councillor Blake.
Yeah, it's going to the photographs on page 115. The bottom photograph shows the adjoining property that's already had the ridge height raised. That look, it's either been just recovered or a fairly recent extension. Could you maybe clarify that?
I'm not aware of the history of that one. As long as I've been in Dumfries and Galloway, that building has had that extension on it, so it goes back 16 years or so. But yeah, it does. There's a notable mark in the change between the slate type, and it's a lot shinier than the older ones in the front.
There is page 91, there's a rail around the existing garage, and I'm not sure if it's to keep folk on the roof or keep folk off the roof. Having been to health and safety training, fulfill the requirements. Anyway, if there's nothing more in that section, we'll move on to section 5, which is the decision letter from the Dumfries and Galloway Council, dated the 30th of January. Fairly straightforward, I would have thought. Not items, section 6, the relevant extract from the Dumfries and Galloway structure plan and Annandale and Eskdale local plan. Information there. Read it in detail. Any comments? Any questions? No? Also includes the supplementary planning guidance number 2. Section 7 photos of the site, we've seen the slides of, and that concludes the report. Any comments? First of all, first question is, have you got enough information to make a decision? Is that a yes, Councillor Blake?
It is for me.
Yes.
Councillor Thompson? Yeah. So you don't want a site visit? I mean, I don't want a site visit. I don't need a site visit. I think I've seen enough photographs of it. Ted?
I think the photographs we've seen actually give us a clear impression of what is actually there. I think there'll be little gain to have a site visit. Though I do know that the applicant is asking that the application be determined on that basis.
You can ask, but the decision is ours whether we want to have one or not. I don't personally think we need one. I think the photographs have been self-explanatory in the slides. So the decision was to refuse on read it somehow. The decision was to refuse on the grounds for the following reasons. The proposals fail to accord with Structure Plan Policy E8 and General Policy 7 and 50 of the Annandale and Eskdale Local Plan, and that the proposed alterations and extensions do not have regard for the character, appearance, scale or massing of the building and would have a material adverse effect on the character and appearance of the conservation area. Anybody got any comments? Wish to uphold that decision or modify it? Councillor Thompson.
I have to say, having looked through the papers and had a look at the sort of photographs, that I find it hard to see how the proposed alterations are worse than what is actually there, because I think, as is noted in the report, you know, the extension that's previously gone in is hardly sympathetic. Again, I think because of the sort of visibility of, you know, the roof line, I think is extremely limited in terms of the impact, you know, and I would certainly concur with Councillor McComb that I think that is not a minor consideration. You know, there is something in that. I also know that you know, that the Community Council is in favour of this proposal, and I'm struggling to find a means of saying that this application should be approved, but I do have a lot of sympathy towards the applicant and what he's trying to do. If you look along the sort of photographs on page 116, and you look along, looking up the high street away from the building, you'll notice that there's a number of very sort of fine-looking buildings there, but they don't actually, you know, when you look the other way, you know, clearly the house next door or the Chinese restaurant next door has already had an extension and kind of falls in line. And I actually struggle to see where the visual impact comes in, but I'm happy to take the views of other members.
Councillor Thompson. Councillor Blake.
I would tend to agree with that comment, other than the fact I wouldn't say it's not any worse than what's there. I think it's actually an improvement to what's there. It ties in the line with the neighbouring property. I noticed the conservation officer stated that he didn't feel that was necessary, but actually I do think it does improve that roof line. And the only point you would really see that is when you're standing directly across and looking at it. I think with the approaches on the road, that I think it would make minimal impact. I also noticed with the street line, although there are obviously many interesting buildings, they're not any two the same anyway. But I don't think it has to be in particular character.
Councillor Combe.
Thanks, Chair. There are some problems, obviously, with the proposal. You know, the roof ridge would produce an asymmetrical cross profile.
That would be.
Aye. You know, you get, you know, two different angles. So you have the chimney head would be below the ridge. You may argue, you know, how big a problem is that? There are no chimney pots. Well, a condition surely could be imposed that the chimney pots be put in place. The garage, the applicant has actually indicated willingness to change the roofing material and indeed the pitch of the roof to suit the planner's wishes. The fact that a flat roof has been used in the dormers suggests you are trying to squeeze a lot into a limited space. But I think in mitigation of that, the dormers are only visible from the rear of the property. No one in the main street would see them. When you're looking at that property, you see the ridge of the roof. You don't see the dormers at all. The adjacent property has already had the roof ridge lifted, and that currently creates a discordance with the application property. So you'd actually finish up, if this proposal goes ahead, with the roof ridge at the same height. Also, if you look at the plans on page, I think it's 70 1 and 72. Yeah. Find them again. Yeah, page 71, sorry. That's the property as it exists. Now, if you look at page 72, to my view, the property looks much better. It's symmetrical in appearance. Whereas, as it exists just now, it most certainly is not, neither to the rear nor to the front. I would think visually that is actually an improvement. And I think that's what you were saying, Ian, earlier on, that, I mean, to me, there are material considerations which mitigate the problems with this proposal. There's improved symmetry, the dormers face to the rear and are hidden by the roof ridge. Also looking along the street, there is no specific character to the buildings. The character is varied. And in terms of massing, well, the Royal Bank of Scotland building dwarfs the building affected by this proposal. Even with the extension, it would continue to dwarf it. It's a very difficult one.
Well,
that's why it's here, of course.
That's why it's here. Yeah, that's why it's here. I'm going to ask Mr. Sutty, if we overturn this decision, the original, I think members are maybe minded in that direction, can we put in extra conditions when we come to that conclusion?
Indeed, in anticipation that you might do that, I even have a list of ones which I would recommend that you consider here.
I'm saying nothing. Yeah, I mean, the things that are coming up are well, there's windows, there's chimneys, and there's the garage roof. It's three that are just spring to mind right away. Are they in line with what you were thinking, Mr. Sutty?
Hadn't thought about the chimneys, to be honest, because if you look at the one next door, they don't have chimneys. But yep, no problem with that condition about chimney pots. Looking through the papers and the comments that were made, there were issues about the UPVC tilt and turn windows on the front and side elevation. Certainly in a conservation area, I would suggest that, well, certainly what the conservation officer is looking for is timber sliding sash and case windows. They could be double glazed, and certainly next to the A7, I would suggest that would be a good idea. But that's one issue. The front elevation, if you look on page 73, what they're talking about doing is taking it back to natural stone. But the difficulty is that nobody knows exactly what the condition of the stonework is under there. So rather than having something which, I agree, the symmetry that's coming in by getting rid of the rather unpleasant shop window that's been put in would be regained, but it could be offset by having something where the stonework is found not to be good. So I would suggest that you need to look at that, a condition regarding the how it's going to be finished. Is it going to be stonework, or if the stonework is found not to be suitable, then it should be a wet dash render as is proposed round the corner and to the rear. So that would at least cover it, because there's some ambiguity about that in my mind. The garage is very much a subsidiary part of the proposal, so I think it's quite legitimate to have a condition seeking details of amendment to the roof pitch and materials, because the applicant's agent has clearly offered that. So I think you can condition that. And the other one is that Transport Scotland are clearly requiring a condition. If they require a condition, has to be attached, or you have to go back to the Scottish Government and allow them to have an opportunity to hold a public inquiry into it. So I would suggest that the line of least resistance is just to attach the condition.
Any other? Councillor Thompson.
I know again from the applicant's agent, you know, when he was talking about the front of the building and intending to restore it to, you know, the original stonework, like that he also put in only if that were suitable. So that would hardly be an onerous condition. And again, I note that for the garage, it's already said that he would actually comply with the suggestions made by the officers.
The windows, I live in a house, the planners, well, I didn't convert the house. The planners insisted it have wooden sash and case windows. Nightmare. You know, we're living in a different world now. We're living in a different age. And there are UPVC windows. You can get sash and case UPVC windows, which can be made to look like wood. You know, they can be wooden coloured, and that would cut my heating bills considerably if that was the case in my own house. So I can have sympathy with that.
You can still have double glazed. Okay. Well, the starting point, if you like, was the views of the conservation officer, which was seeking timber sash and case. If you look at page 34, paragraph 410, the case officer herself actually says that it's considered, however, that UPVC sash and case windows would be a better solution in this case. So that's maybe the compromise.
Yeah, I would be happy with that. So, are we minded to overturn this decision in the first instance with certain conditions? Okay. Are there any other conditions that you would like to apply, gentlemen? Or are we happy to? Yeah. Mr. Stutty, give us wording. Might as well make him earn his keep. David?
Yes, that's quite easy to incorporate. It would just be a pretty standard condition requiring details of chimney pots that are to go in and that they should go in before the development's occupied. So very similar conditions to what you're recommending that you would put in for the other ones, but requiring submission of details.
Okay, do you want David to run through the wording of these conditions?
No problem. What I would suggest is condition 1 is that notwithstanding the details shown on the approved plans, no planning permission is hereby granted for the UPVC tilt and turn windows shown on the front and side elevations. No development in respect to this planning permission shall take place unless details of alternative windows have been submitted to and approved in writing by the planning authority. These windows shall be of UPVC sliding sash and case design oblique construction. Development hereby granted planning permission shall not be occupied unless the said windows have been installed as so approved. And the reason for that is in order to preserve the character of the Langholm outstanding conservation area. Number 2 would be that no development shall take place unless details of the finish of the front elevation have been submitted to and approved in writing by the planning authority. The front elevation shall be either taken back to its natural sandstone finish with existing shop window opening made up with matching natural stone, or to be rendered with a white painted wet dash render to match the side and rear elevations. And then again, the usual thing about not being occupied and the reason being the conservation area. Number 3 would be that no development in respect to this planning permission shall take place unless revised details of the roof pitch and materials for the replacement garage hereby granted planning permission have been submitted to and approved in writing by the planning authority. The roof shall be of an increased pitch and shall be finished in either natural slate or a suitable alternative slate effect material. I think that's reasonable for the reason that if you're having natural slate, you would need at least a 40-degree pitch, and it might be appropriate to have an artificial slate that looks the same but would allow a slightly lower roof pitch. Then again, the garage shouldn't be occupied unless it's been done in accordance with that. I would have another condition in there about your chimneys, which would basically have the same structure to it, but just requiring details of the chimneys and that they go in before occupation. And finally, there would be the one required by Transport Scotland, which is that the parking oblique garage area to the rear of the property shall be exclusively for the use of the upper flat only and shall not be used by the owner, occupier, lessee of the ground floor flat hereby granted planning permission. And the reason is the one that they've given, which is to restrict the level of use of the lane accessing the rear of the property with no net detriment to the safe and free flow of trunk road users, both pedestrian and vehicular. And then you'd have the standard 2 directives about notification of the start and completion of the development and the 3-year legislation period for commencement.
Members happy? Councillor Blake?
Just one part, you mentioned about the windows, that they should be of UPVC sash and case. Should that be not timber or UPVC? Because we've been very prescriptive in saying you must go for UPVC. They may want to go for timber.
Absolutely, yes. Happy to amend that.
I'm just talking from my bitter experience on a windy night in the winter time.
One other part, it's just on the mechanics of it. I can understand the use of the car park solely for the use of the upper flat. How is that controlled? How could we ever stop that?
It would be something which really would be better put in the title deeds, to be perfectly honest. But I'm taking the line of least resistance here. That's what Transport Scotland want, therefore suggesting that is the better way of doing it.
I suppose it's one of those situations, one of those conditions that we can put it in, but years to come might be the folk upstairs don't have a car and the folk downstairs do have a car. You know, it's practicalities of life. It's just that they're not downstairs flats not supposed to park in the back. Could it be that we could just restrict the number of parking spaces in the back?
It's self-restricting. I think you can only get 2 spaces.
Okay, are members quite happy with that? Claire?
Okay, thank you. I can confirm that LRB has agreed to reverse the decision of the appointed officer and grant planning permission, subject to the conditions already outlined by the planning advisor, being windows, front elevation, garage, park.
Thank you. I have no further business, gentlemen. Thank you.